I'm Elex Michaelson. This week on The Issue is the James Carville Show. You know how to put on a show.
You want a show? We'll give you a show.
The legendary Democratic strategist on why the Democratic show didn't work out and what can be learned from President Trump. Then Brietbart's Joel Pollak on his interaction with President Trump regarding fire relief. And PUCK's Peter Hamby on the extraordinary challenge of covering an unprecedented presidency.
Broadcasting across California, you're watching The Issue Is.
And welcome to The Issue Is. I'm Elex Michaelson. As President Trump transforms the federal government in record speed, there's strong reaction on both sides of the aisle. One of the most blunt, interesting, and fearless analysis is coming from James Carville. This week, the legendary Democratic strategist appeared at the Warsaw Conference at USC, where he appeared on stage and then sat down backstage with us exclusively. Carville is perhaps best known for running Bill Clinton's successful 1992 campaign with his phrase, "It's the economy, stupid." He's the subject of the new documentary, Carville, Winning is Everything, Stupid. In it, you see constant warnings to Democrats that they were set up to lose in 2024. Here's our conversation. James Carville, welcome back to The Issue Is.
Thank you.
Donald Trump is now president. What do you make of the way that he's acting so far?
So utterly predictable. Can I think of anything? So you have this example, you have this tragic crash. Obviously, it seems to me that this helicopter was grotesquely out of position, but that, negligence. And it's start on DEI. I mean, you can't, the guy doesn't have a human reaction to an event. It was like you had these, wildfires here. Well, I mean, there's probably when you go back and do your after-action report, or what you're going to have to do. The one thing we know that didn't have anything to do with this was the Delta smelt, okay? It's just stunning how he can come up with the dumbest, most unresponsive response to a tragedy that I've ever seen by my life.
And yet, why do you think he's so popular?
Well, I don't think he's, first of all, let's say he has a lot of intensity, okay? He's never been at 50%. He is a vehicle to explain to you why you thought your life was going to be better. Okay, the immigrants did it to you, the DEI people did it to you, the Chinese did it to you, and they're looking for quick answers to why their lives didn't turn out very well. And Trump is ready to supply that lie to you as he's stealing from you, right in front of you. It's pretty amazing.
But the Democratic candidate was pretty unpopular. And
Right.
you say that the Democrats started their seventh-string quarterback in trying to win in
Right.
both
We had
Biden
Super Bowl.
and
we played
Harris.
the seventh-string quarterback.
Yeah.
All right, and we had we weren't allowed to have tryouts. Okay.
Meaning a primary.
Where people would go if you would have had Bill Clinton and Barack Obama hosting a forum in Los Angeles, okay, with 6 potential Democratic presidential candidates, you could have put the damn thing in a Coliseum and it would have filled up. Okay, there would have been interest. There would have been, 2 successful people that know something about being president, having a conversation. Well, Governor, how would you address this? Or what would you do? Instead, we got a person that, embraced every goofy identity idea of 2019, 2020, all right, all make mistakes, who was running a campaign and didn't run on change. I mean, she was if anything, she played well for a 7-string quarterback.
In a year when 70% of the country thought we were going in the wrong track.
We told people we're going to keep running off tackle. Well, they figured it out. They got a 375-pound guy there. You're going to run out of him. Okay, let's try to go over the top.
Yeah.
Okay, it's something. It was almost, and in spite of everything, in spite of starting a 7-string quarterback, in spite of refusing to acknowledge that you were living in a country that was looking for something different, we were resolute in giving it, we came within 1.5 points.
So who is the first-string quarterback?
You got to have tryouts.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
And which is something you said in real time. This isn't something you're coming up after. So there's this great documentary called "Winning Is Everything, Stupid," which we watch you in real time saying this, screaming from the mountaintop. Guys, look out! We're doing this wrong. We're gonna lose. Listen to me. He's too old. He can't win. Stop it, guys. And people didn't listen to you. Do you think they're listening now?
I don't. I think there's some people who think it is in their interest not to listen. I think there's some people that are afraid if we do that, something will go wrong. Well, it might, but the basic truth is something I've always recognized, is I know how much talent there is in the party. I know Governor Beshear, I know Governor Spiro, I know Governor Moore, I know Senator Warnock, okay? I know Mayor Landrieu, I know all these people. Let's get out there. And you say, who's the best quarterback? Well, let's throw some. Let's have a scrimmage. Let's have a preseason game. And guess what? When you got that kind of competition, it's going to be good.
What do you think of Governor Newsom?
You know, I think the guy is very good. I mean, I watched him. He debated DeSantis. I've kind of watched him on TV, the way he outplayed. The problem Governor Newsom has, he's been visible for so long, and this is not fair, but people are going to say, I think the California thing, although it's the largest block of Democratic delegates there is, I'm not sure that's a positive. But every time I come to California, I keep hearing that everybody's leaving here. Well, why always stuck in traffic? If everybody's gone, why can't I get around? Okay, it's like somebody stayed. I don't know who it is.
We got some surplus people.
Yeah, I'm sitting there. It takes me, an hour and 20 minutes to get from USC to LAX. I don't know. He would definitely be, again, he has advantages. He's been governor of the largest state, sixth largest economy in the world. Largest block of delegates, but I'm not sure. The other thing is, I don't think anyone cares anymore about where you're from, what race you are, what gender you are, or your identity. That's pretty clear.
Obviously, the world's changed a bit since 1992, but back at that point, the Democrats were kind of in the wilderness for a while when it comes to presidential races, and you and Bill Clinton able to come together. What are the fundamental principles of that race that Democrats can apply now?
We had a story and we're sticking to it.
Right.
And we're not getting out of it. All right. But the one thing that we miss about modern politics is we have not had an inspirational candidate since 2012. That's for 12, it's going to be 16 years in 2028. When you think about Democrats, what do you think? They're old and they're urban. That's about as far as you get. Okay? They're all old and they kind of favor the people of the cities. Well,
and Clinton and Obama were cool and young.
Yes, were cool, young, and they wanted to have universal appeal.
Yeah.
Okay? And they neither one ran a narrowly focused campaign.
And sometimes it's as simple as Trump puts on a better show.
Yeah. I mean, he does. He has an arc. He has a narrative. Yeah. Okay, but what's wrong with putting on a show?
You know how to put on a show.
You want a show? We'll give you a show.
Well, James Carville, you make it so interesting. Winning is everything. Stupid. Streaming now on Max.
Yes, sir.
You are the man. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
James Carville knows how to put on a show. And you can check out our full interview, which includes more of that, streaming now at youtube.com/Elex Michaelson. Up next.
Many of my neighbors, including some here, tried to fight the fires. They couldn't. We were lucky our house was saved. But we should not have to rely on buckets to put out a fire.
That's right.
Brietbart's Joel Pollak asked President Trump for fire relief on live TV. Joel in studio next with an update on what's happened since.
I would like to ask you to follow the 9/11 Commission precedent and appoint a special master to watch the money, to make sure that every federal dollar that gets spent here is spent on fire relief and rebuilding and not on everything else.
Good idea.
That is Breitbart's Joel Pollak talking directly to President Trump at his local fire station in Pacific Palisades a week ago, fire station number 69. Joel is with us now wearing the hat from that station. I know this is your hometown. This is your neighborhood. This is so personal for you. I know you've been writing about President Trump, literally talking about him since week one here on this show. As a human being, as a resident, as a reporter, as a conservative, what did that moment mean for you?
Well, it was very important because it is my town, but it's also the town of all my neighbors, many of whom lost their homes, and many of whom felt voiceless until that moment, because we have all been to the town hall meetings or we've watched them on Zoom, and largely what we've seen is public officials congratulating each other for what a good job they're doing. And nobody had yet, until that moment, talked about all the things that went wrong. And we can't control the wind, and we can't control the rain, but there are things within our control and within the local government's control that we didn't do right. We didn't have police directing traffic. We didn't have firefighters pre-deployed. We didn't have water in the reservoir. There are things that we could have and should have done. And I think the president needed to know that we had failed to do those things. I think that the mayor and the supervisors needed to hear it. And after I spoke out and talked about the special master to make sure the money is spent properly, my neighbors started speaking up, and they started talking to the president about how they wanted to get to their property. Mm-hmm. And Mayor Bass said, well, I don't know, maybe within a week. And Trump said, a week's not good enough. And by Monday, the very next working day, the residents of the Palisades could get back to their properties.
Yeah, and we've got some pictures that you have taken over the last couple weeks in Pacific Palisades. What are you now seeing on the ground in terms of a follow-up since that meeting?
Anybody who can get to their property is going. People are sending contractors, people are accompanying insurance assessors, people are taking the first steps to move forward with their lives. There's still so much that's uncertain, but people are grieving when they arrive at their lots, and their lots have been totally destroyed. The houses have burnt down. People are using hazardous material suits and personal protective equipment. They're going through their lots to see if they can find anything, salvage anything. Some people can't, but occasionally people can find some ceramics, or I saw a neighbor find some old photographs even. So people are processing this experience and preparing for the next step.
So Mayor Bass appointed Steve Soboroff to basically be her czar leading a lot of this. We've got some video of you at a local meeting where you spoke with Steve Soboroff, and Mayor Bass was speaking as well. They talked about this not being a political thing, and then when it started to get political, you walked out of this meeting. There you are with Steve Soboroff. Your assessment of Mayor Bass's leadership so far?
I was disappointed in that meeting. I felt that she was using the meeting essentially to manufacture support for herself. I think there is a lot of public criticism of her job, the fact that she was out of the country, the fact that the emergency services didn't work. What happened in that meeting was that the person who convened the meeting started by saying we should not politicize the fires, and then launched into an attack on immigration and customs enforcement, on ICE. And that's when I walked out, because if you're going to say don't politicize this because it's exploiting the fire victims, and then you proceed to politicize it, then it's not a serious meeting. It's actually a kind of political propaganda session. And at that point, the resident took over the journalist. As a journalist, I should have stayed, but as a Pacific Palisades resident, I couldn't stay, and so I left.
What's the big need, do you think, for your neighbors now going forward?
People need to know that they can rebuild speedily, and they need some certainty about what that's going to look like. And I would also say, having spoken to Steve Soboroff and Rick Caruso and other people who are stakeholders, who have property, who have investments, I think that what we need to see is leadership at that level. We need to see the Soboroffs and Carusos sitting down together and working things out, not at odds with one another, but sitting down and exerting the kind of leadership that has been missing, and talking to local residents and working with us. I think we also need a more transparent process. Nobody knows what Steve is doing, and that's not necessarily his fault, but nobody knows what he's doing or how he got there. Nobody knows what's coming out of Rick Caruso's nonprofit about rebuilding the Palisades. There's just a lot of confusion. So I think having them sit together, and work with the Trump administration, which is going to appoint a special master to make sure the money is well spent.
And do you know who that's going to be yet?
I don't yet, but Rick Grinnell is taking the lead for now in California.
who had worked with him as the ambassador to Germany before, Southern California, and who was in that meeting, who Trump pointed to in the meeting in real time when you brought it up. There was a moment of hope this week, which was Fire Aid, this incredible, massive concert at both the Forum and the Intuit Dome. You got a chance to go to it.
At first I was uncertain how it would feel because life seemed to have gone on for everyone else in the arena. Not everybody was from the Palisades, and it's a party. Is it really appropriate to have a party? But once the people on stage talked about their own homes, because so many of the musicians and Billy Crystal, the comedian, they are residents of the Palisades. Some lost homes, some saved their homes, but there was this direct connection between the audience and the performers that was incredible.
So what was your favorite moment?
My favorite moment was watching the Black Crowes perform a cover of Led Zeppelin's Going to California with Slash sitting in on guitar. Amazing.
All right. Well, up next here on The Issue Is, we're going to talk to Peter Hamby for some analysis of this wild week in politics. But Joel, thanks for being here. And we go to break with Joel's favorite moment.
Going to California with an aching in my heart.
It has been one of the busiest beginnings of a presidency in American history. It's hard to keep up with everything that's happening. So here to help us make sense of all of it is Peter Hamby. Peter, of course, is the host of Good Luck America on Snapchat, a show that has won the Edward R. Murrow Award. Congrats on that. He also hosts The Power That Be, a daily podcast for Puck News about media, politics, and more. Peter, welcome back to The Issue Is.
Great to be back, Alex.
How are you thinking about Donald Trump and everything that he is doing at one time?
This is intentional. They've always said, this is a maxim of Steve Bannon from back in the day, to just flood the zone with information. What's different about this time is there still feels like a little bit of shoot from the hip chaos. Trump can't resist picking culture war fights and saying inflammatory things, which we saw from the White House podium just the other day after the plane crash above Reagan National. But they are also much more deliberate. And so there's substantive news there with all of these executive orders. We'll see how much substance gets through Congress, but there is hard news to cover every single day, every single minute, almost in a way there wasn't in 2017.
Well, and it seems like they are most strategic on immigration, which is what the people around Trump actually really care about. You don't hear them talking about the price of eggs all that much, but you see them really focused on immigration.
And here's the thing that Democrats are finally admitting, mostly in private, some will say it publicly. You know, Trump was kind of right about immigration in the sense that the American public was extremely queasy about all the people coming here from the border, whether they're people seeking asylum from, political discontent in a Central American country or elsewhere, or if they're just trying to come here to work. People were not okay with that. And Joe Biden said in that 2020 debate, basically come here. And you know what? Migrants listened, and America wasn't okay with that. The thing that is very popular are deportations. It is extremely popular.
As we're talking with Peter Hamby of Puck News, a question about what we're seeing here in Southern California. In addition to talking about all the national stuff, you live here in Southern California. You've been impacted by the fires, and you've been seeing what's happening with Mayor Karen Bass. I know you sent me this poll. We want to put it up on the screen, talking about her approval and disapproval rating. This is a recent poll. 54% disapprove, 37% approve. So what happens if Rick Caruso, who of course ran against her and lost by about 10 points, got into a race against her this time? According to this poll, Rick Caruso at 43%, Karen Bass at 36%, 21% undecided. This is a Decipher AI poll. Your reading of that and this moment and what Rick Caruso has been doing?
That poll, I should say, was, I believe, commissioned by a Republican-leaning media firm. I think they did Nathan Hawkins' DA race. That kind of California Republican.
Yeah.
I wrote a column about this for Puck a couple weeks ago. Most regular voters in any city don't think on a daily basis about what their city council person is doing, what the mayor's doing, even what the governor's doing, until it really hits home. So she has been defined, and this is largely a communications issue because the mayor of Los Angeles doesn't have a ton of executive powers, but she's been defined by not being here for the fire. So,
for the first day, she came here after, in fairness to her.
Correct, but she did leave after being aware of the fire threat.
Right.
That's the important thing.
Right.
And that's the thing that most people know about her now. That's the thing. She was kind of a cipher, generic Democrat, had made progress on homelessness, I think we should say, along with the city council. But, now this is what she's known for. It's very hard for any politician. I've been around so many losing campaigns at every level. It's hard to crawl out of a hole. It's really, really hard. As for Caruso, he seems like Palisades guy, loves the Palisades, clearly. The question for me, and I know you've been talking to sources about this too, is does he run for mayor or does he run for governor of California?
Mm-hmm. I mean, he had said to me before the fires that he was strongly considering running for governor. And I think part of that reason was because he didn't think there was a path to run for mayor because Karen Bass looked like she was a lock for re-election. Now, there may be a path to run for mayor, which may be what he really loves, Los Angeles. But the thought also could be California governor, way more powerful, way more important of a job. Yeah. And if he's got a path for that, maybe go for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're exactly right. That's the choice. I'm already envisioning the campaign next year, and it's the Sky News interview where they caught Karen Bass in the airport. Do you have anything to say to the citizens of Los Angeles about the fires? Blank stare, nothing. Mm-hmm. That's a killer. That's a killer ad. The one thing the mayor has to do, the one thing, is show leadership, set an agenda, and be a leader in a time of crisis. And we all have friends that night who weren't sure what to do that first Tuesday night of the fires, whether you're in Altadena or Palisades, looking for some kind of guidance, leadership. Should we flee? What's the air quality like? And typically you would look for a mayor to be like the person to step in and give you that update, but she wasn't here.
Right, and so the question is, where does she go from here? Open invite. We'd love to have her on the show and hear more of her perspective. Peter, thank you so much for sharing your perspective. We really appreciate it.
Hollywood nights in the Hollywood Hills.
One word to describe the Democratic Party right now.
Perfect.
That's the Republican chairman, Jessica Patterson, calling it perfect. I was honored to help host the Warshak Conference on Practical Politics at USC this week. You can watch that broadcast on C-SPAN. We end this week with music from the Fire Aid benefit for fire victims. To donate to them, head to fireaid.org. Thanks for watching. And Dr. Dre closes us out with the most iconic California song of all.